If you say yes to everything that's coming along your way, you're saying no to a lot of other things. And mostly, you also say no to your own needs.
Hi, and welcome to Lead Well.
Hey, welcome to this week's Lead Well podcast, which is the 40th episode, believe it or not. So, there is something very special I want to bring to you today because I have created a few drawings for you to make this a little bit more fun. Now, what are we talking about today? There is one topic that comes up in just about every conversation I've been having over the last few weeks and months. And that is, Christine, I've got so much to do. I feel overwhelmed. And Christine, do you have any tips and tricks for time management? And yes, I do. On the other hand, I think that there is this myth out there that if we try hard, we can do everything. If we try hard, whatever is on our to-do list can be done in a given amount of time. And I personally believe that's a myth. Let me use some visuals to actually show you what I mean and why I do believe today we need a slightly different approach to time management than we did in the past. Because I think I shared that before. When I started my first job on a Friday evening, I would stay in the office for extended hours. And the result was that I could finish everything that was on my plate for this given week. So when I left the office on a Friday night, there was no more things to do on my desk. When has that happened to you for the last time? I'm pretty sure this no longer happens. And it doesn't matter if you're young, if you're older. Sometimes people my age, they think it's because of their age, because they're not as quick as they used to be. But the good news or bad news is that this happens to everyone these days because there is just so much to do. Now, let me go into these visuals that I talked about. First of all, maybe you know this little video that goes around on YouTube. The idea is there is a jar, a glass jar, and then you have different types of stones, like representatives of the tasks that we have to do. And let's say we have 3 different sizes. So we have the really big stones. Those stand for the larger projects, the projects that run for several weeks, maybe even months. Those are the smaller things that we're working on. Maybe you have to create a report. Maybe you have to come up with a new idea. And then the really small ones, the sand. So this is everything that happens in between, everything on our to-do list that is quick to do, but there is a lot of it, like writing emails, answering on instant messenger. And so the idea of this little video is that if you start in the wrong way and you put all the little things in your jar first, so if you're not really good at prioritizing and do all the small stuff first, then there will not be enough space to really put in the bigger stones. They don't have any space anymore. So the idea and the message of that video, of that approach, is to say, okay, if you work efficiently, if you put in the big stuff first, the big stones first, then you have an opportunity to then fill in the smaller stones, and at the end you fill in the sand, and everything fits nicely because the smaller things will find the place in between the space of the larger stones. Now that's a perfect way of talking about efficiency. And yes, there is a lot of things we can do from an efficiency perspective. And I already had one episode talking about time management where I talked about efficiency. And yes, they are things like cutting down on your multitasking, because that takes up a lot of time and a lot of effort for your brain. So do one thing after the other. Use things like the Pomodoro Technique, where you dedicate 25 minutes of your time to a particular task so that you focus on it. And then you have a 5-minute break. And in that break, do something completely different so that your brain can reset. And how to make sure that you get the bigger stuff in your calendar first, to then fill it up with the smaller stuff. But there is an however. And the however is that the current reality looks different. Because when I look at the current reality, you still have the jar, and you still have the big stones, the smaller ones, and then the sand. However, the number of stones and the amount of sand is much bigger than what you could ever fit in that jar. So there is too much to do for the time that you have at hand. There is too much to do that you could be able to actually do it by the end of your day, your week, your month. So the need is a different one, or let's say an additional one, a complementary one, because yes, I still need to be good at making sure that I use my time efficiently, that I have an idea of the bigger stones, of the bigger projects that I want to get done, and then only then do the smaller stuff. However, I also need a new skill, and that is prioritizing. So I need to find out from all those stones, from all that stuff that's out there, what is the one that I really need to focus on? What is the one that I need to focus on first? And what is the one that maybe I cannot get done? Now let's look into what can we do to get there. So first of all, it's all about prioritizing. And the first thing that you can think about is, well, what is it that I need to get done myself, and do it? And there are these other techniques where it says, if you can do it within 2 minutes, do it immediately. Otherwise, put it in your calendar. Because if you put it on a to-do list, I don't know about you, but I know that my to-do list could often be called a not to-do list, because things stay there on an ongoing basis. Now, if you put them into your calendar immediately, then at least you have given them a specific time slot and you have dedicated time for that. And the probability you will spend that time for that task is much, much higher. Now, what can you do yourself, or what do you have to do yourself, is probably the question that you should ask yourselves. And if there are things that you find out that it's not critical and not necessary that you are doing them, then the next question is, what can I delegate? And when we think about delegation, we often think about delegating down. So I'm a manager, I'm a leader, I have my people, and I can delegate the stuff to them. And yes, that is right. And yes, we will say they already have a lot on their plate. That's true. And still, you need to ask yourself that question. You get paid as a leader, you get paid as a manager. So, what is it that you need to get done? And what are tasks that others can do? And maybe you can take something away from them, because delegation is important so that you can focus on the things that generate most return on investment for your company. And sometimes the operational stuff that a lot of my leaders are getting involved in is not the highest return on investment. It's just the easiest way for them to, well, keep themselves busy, and also making sure that their teams understand that they are getting involved. And at the same time, it's probably not always the best payoff for the company itself. And also, if you're working on your own, maybe there is also a way to consider what is it that I'm doing that has the highest return on investment of my time. That's what you should focus on, to do it yourself, and then you can delegate. And delegate, again, it's not only delegating down, it's also delegating across, because you probably have colleagues that can help you. It might be delegating up. So if you're in a corporate environment, there will be things that maybe your manager can do better and maybe even quicker than you can. And then there is also this new technology of artificial intelligence. And a lot of us as solopreneurs, like myself, delegate a lot to AI or to other service providers that I'm working with. So even as a solopreneur, if I do not have employees, I still have options like AI, like my service providers that can help me get my stuff done. So delegate. Who can you delegate to? Include ideas like artificial intelligence and include ideas like service providers that you can engage. And then there still will be stuff that you cannot do yourselves and that cannot be delegated because there is just too much to do. And that is why it's so critical these days to learn how to say no. And it's extremely hard at the beginning because, well, it creates a funny feeling when we're saying no, because those of us who have a bit of a pleaser or saboteur, we think that others might probably not like me anymore, or my boss will not be happy with me if I'm saying no to certain things. On the other hand, if you say yes to everything that's coming along your way, you're saying no to a lot of other things. And mostly, you also say no to your own needs. Because by doing everything that's coming our way, we disregard our health, we disregard our need to relax, and we also disregard the important projects that we would need to dedicate a lot of time to and to dedicate a lot of our awareness to. So it's really critical to discern between what needs to be done and where do I need to say no. Because in the long run, you probably will not be able to do everything that's coming your way. And so it's important to make a distinction and to have a really good understanding of what fits with your values, of what fits with your vision, and what fits with the requirements of your business. And of course, your environment, because you're not living on your own. You have a family, you have friends, and they need you as well. And so, if you want to stay healthy and if you want to stay productive in the long run, then it's really critical to be able to not only work faster and faster and faster in a given period of time and being more efficient, but also prioritizing and distinguishing between what needs to be done, where can I say no to, and for the things that need to be done, who will do them? Am I the best one or anyone else in my larger environment? Now, what is your take on that? How are you dealing with all the stuff that's coming your way these days? I hope this little episode was useful, and always remember, lead well yourself and others, and leading well includes saying no at some point. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
This was Lead Well. Now, what is the one thing that you're taking away from this episode? Please share in the comments below and do share the podcast with your friends and family, but only if you like it.